You're listening to the Hog Sports Network Daily Podcast. Now, here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hey, happy Friday to you. The battle for the boot tomorrow night, 6 o'clock kickoff on ESPN. Arkansas and 8th-ranked LSU over at Razorback Stadium. We'll talk quite a bit about that game today. John Calipari was at the Hogs Illustrated Sports Club yesterday. We'll talk about what he had to say. Also, we'll give our weekend predictions here at the end of the show. Ethan Westerman with me in studio. Ethan, just back from a not quite embedded with the basketball team, but that's kind of it was close. I mean, you were in Hot Springs, then you were in Pine Bluff, then you were in Birmingham. Back in Springdale to listen to Calipari yesterday. You've had a lot of basketball on your plate.
Yeah, I saw John Calipari in a span of 6 days in 4 different cities. So
There you go.
that sums up the basketball safari we went on, me and Bob Holt. I'm exhausted. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, it was an exhausting week, but hey, it was well worth it. I feel like I've learned a lot about the Razorbacks, their basketball team.
We'll talk more about Razorback basketball in the second segment. Also women's basketball, because the women's basketball team was down in Birmingham as well as part of SEC Media Days. Football, though, Arkansas-LSU tomorrow. We know Taylon Green's going to play. That's the big news this week. The fact that he wasn't even on the availability report, it felt to me, and I don't know if this is what Arkansas was trying to do, and I don't think this is what they were trying to do, quite frankly. But that said, it felt like a statement, putting out an availability report in which you only have 2 guys on it, and most of your guys who are, your guys are not listed on that availability report. It's just like it's like a statement to LSU, a statement to the fans, a statement to anybody who cares about this game. Hey, we're ready to play these guys.
For sure, and I don't know, necessarily, the whole process of what goes into putting those availability reports together. I know the head doctor is the one who actually ends up doing it. So it's it's not like the coaches are sitting there like, oh, we're gonna make a statement. But I think
Right.
it is.
But it does make a statement. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it makes one secondhand. It's not like they might not have even been trying to do that, but it does. The fact that they made it to their bye week 4-2, fresh off a big win, and they're entering the back half of their schedule at pretty much full strength. I know Jalen Braxton's out and Rodney Hill is doubtful.
Mm-hmm.
Something, but to be in that position, setting yourself up for the back half of your schedule like that, I think it makes a statement that it feels like they're ready to try and win more games. Pull off a few more upsets.
So you wrote the story on our website right now. This just kind of the head-to-head matchup between Arkansas and LSU. As you've looked into this over the last week and a half, because you start this even before the previous Saturday's game. What do you see?
Yeah, well, Christina actually did the head-to-head, so
I can't remember who writes what. I just know you both do something along these lines.
But I have looked into LSU. I think that the main thing I take away from them is this is an offense that Arkansas is going to be challenged against. It probably hasn't been yet. I know Tennessee, Arkansas entered that game with Tennessee with all those stats, flashy numbers that made them so daunting of an offense to face. But LSU's been kind of through the ring of fire, and they've played some of these games. They played Ole Miss, they've played USC, they've played South Carolina. I'm probably leaving somebody else out right now off the top of my head, but and their offense has just kept it up. I was looking at their stats with Garrett Nussmeier, the quarterback, and he's doing a lot of things right now at 6 games through the season that their 2 former Heisman winner at quarterback in those seasons, Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels. He's right there with them at 6 games through the season. I think he's had more 300-yard passing games than either of them at this juncture, and his yardage and stuff is kind of right there with them. So it's a sneaky good season that he's having. I don't know if it's even sneaky at this point, but because he's starting to get some recognition.
It's one of those years, if I can interject, it's one of those years where he would be an all-SEC quarterback in a lot of seasons, but there's just so many, and maybe he is this year, but there are so many other good quarterbacks in the league. There's Milroe, there's Beck, there's Ewers. This is a really good year for quarterback play in the SEC, and part of that's because of what he's doing.
Exactly. That's kind of one of my biggest takeaways. I'm like, this guy's pretty good quarterback that we might not be talking about enough. I know he does get talked about, but it's just he's not in the same breath usually as those other guys.
Diego Pavia.
Pavia, that's my I love watching him play. What do you remember what junior college he played at? It's somewhere in New Mexico.
Well, he was at New Mexico State.
Well, before that he played at a junior college.
Well, I don't know. You've got me there.
Oh yeah, he played in the JUCO national championship at War Memorial Stadium. Fun fact. I think he won the game.
How about that?
Yeah. Anyway, Diego Pavia, he's fun.
Prepared him to play at Vanderbilt.
Oh yeah, exactly. I actually kind of had a similar thought. I was like, that's kind of a similar situation there. So, but yeah, Diego Pavia, he's one of the ones that who thought that at week 8, at week 8 we'd be talking about Vanderbilt's quarterback. What weird times we're living in the SEC. But Vandy's my team that I'm like, it's hard to not root for them a little bit. They're having their moment finally.
New Mexico Military Institute.
Oh, there you go. He was
where he played.
Yeah, and he played in the JUCO national title in War Memorial. So anyway, that's your Diego Pavia fun fact of the day.
And he was a 3-time state finalist in wrestling.
Wow. Man of many talents.
He is an interesting. We're going to talk Vanderbilt a little bit later. Well, no, we're not. We're not going to pick Vanderbilt's game because they're a 26.5-point favorite.
All right, I'm picking them right now.
The fact that Vanderbilt. I mean, whoever thought that they would live to see the day that Vanderbilt was a 26.5-point favorite over an FBS team?
Not me.
They're playing Ball State this weekend.
Also, yeah. Sorry, somehow we transitioned from Garrett Nussmeier.
I think we were talking about Arkansas-LSU at one point, weren't we?
Yeah, and then we got just too into talking about Vanderbilt. What else do I know about the Tigers? I guess Kyron Lacey, the receiver, he's really good. Yeah, I mean, their wide receiver, in my opinion, in the past decade or so. It's hard to make an argument that anybody else has had better ones. I mean, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Odell Beckham, Malik Neighbors. They had Brian Thomas last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just keep on having great receivers. That's on the offensive side of the ball. They're pretty explosive, good passing game. I think that Arkansas can't allow them to get the run game going, though. That's important. Like, they have a really good passing game, but if Arkansas lets their run game get going, then that's when things get really complicated. So Arkansas's got to still stop the run, but yeah, focus is going to be on slowing down Nussmeier. On the other side of the ball, their defense, you look at their stats and stuff, and they're near the bottom of the SEC in almost everything. I know you do your efficiency ratings. I'd be curious to, hear where they're at in those. But
let me call up the spreadsheet. Go ahead.
And just all the typical they're 13th in the SEC in scoring defense. They're 13th in rushing defense. They're 15th in passing defense. So they're near the bottom of the SEC in all these categories. But it might be a little deceiving because it seems like they're progressing. Their game against Ole Miss. Anybody who watched it, I think that was like the definition of bend but don't break defense. Like, Ole Miss had a lot of yards. They kept driving the ball, but they didn't turn it into touchdowns often. They were held to 4 field goals, and they scored 13 points in 5 red zone trips against the LSU defense. So, and that's something Arkansas struggled with is scoring, when they're driving. And LSU showed its defense last week could do that to Ole Miss. So that's going to be a big key. If Arkansas gets those yards, which LSU's defense has shown they're capable of giving up, can Arkansas actually convert it into some points?
Defensive efficiency, they're 10th in the SEC.
Yeah, so.
But they're ahead of Auburn, who you like their defense.
I do, but also Auburn's played Georgia, which I think factors into probably.
They're always a pretty efficient offense.
They're always, yeah. And I think Auburn, I don't love Auburn's defense. I just think you can't, that's a defense that will keep them in games and probably have them win a game that's going to frustrate some team to have that loss on their schedule. I don't think they're a great defense. I just think that they have their front seven's pretty good. So
Nussmeier, I saw a stat the other day that he's thrown 6 interceptions this year, but 4 of them have been in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I think that I was looking at the stats. 3 of them have been him targeting Lacey. So I wonder if, there might be, we talk about Arkansas, the tendency to just kind of Taylor Green, get that funnel vision for Andrew Armstrong. You wonder if that's maybe something that with Nussmeier Lacey that other defenses have, started to read just where he's going to be looking for Lacey. But, yeah, Arkansas, it feels like got to get maybe a few turnovers in this game. It's just if you're playing an offense like that, like LSU's, I feel like you have to get some takeaways.
Pittman says that he thinks Arkansas can beat anybody if they can be equal or better in turnover margin. It's just that hasn't really happened a whole lot this year. This is, we mentioned Braxton being out, and he hadn't played since Oklahoma State. Who knows how good he would be if he could play this week. But this is really one of those weeks where you wish you had your best cover corner out there playing against this type of team, because not only do they have Kyron Lacey, they've got a couple of other receivers who they think they might be able to get back this week too.
Exactly, and Jalen Braxton's that guy that in spring practices, preseason, whenever they're going in more live situations, you see him covering Andrew Armstrong a lot of the time. He is your ace coverage guy. He's the best in coverage. So I do think, you wonder what's going on there, because if it's this late in the season, he hasn't played since the Oklahoma State game. You just wonder how much of the focus is to even get him back this year, because I just don't know what the plan is there. Because
there was optimism last week, right? Pittman mentioned him as a player who might be able to play in this game.
Yeah,
and so the fact that there was at least optimism tells me that maybe he's progressing to where you can get him back at some point in time. Just he's not ready yet.
Yeah, and you just got to remember, how for the redshirting rules, like how many games you can play and stuff. So I think
you can play in 4 plus the bowl.
Yeah, so it's a matter of, like, if you've gone this late into the season, all these things come into play. I'm not out here speculating that's happening there. It's just you wonder if he's not available here in a few more weeks. But I think next week is going to be the one to, since he's out for LSU, we got to really key in. Is he going to play against Mississippi State? If not, you just wonder what's going to happen there.
I think I read recently that Lincoln Riley is advocating for a 5th year of eligibility for football players. So, like, how COVID has given everybody a 5th year of eligibility who was in any way a part of that 2020 season, maybe even the 2020 season. Now he wants it to be where everybody gets 5 years of eligibility and just continue these super senior college football teams.
I guess more power to him. I don't really know.
I don't know the pros and cons to it.
I'm about to say, what's been confusing. The 5th years haven't been as confusing to me as whenever you're out here and you see a 6th or 7th year guy. That's
or 8th or 9th or whatever it might be.
There's some guy that plays for Miami. Is it a tight end for Miami or something? I think he began his college career in the Obama presidency, is what I read. That is just wild to me. So anyway,
that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I think it was Brandon Marcello told me that there was a 9th year player in college football this year.
Yeah, so I mean, it adds up.
So yeah, it's pretty wild. You wrote about Brian Kelly and how good his team has been in October, and that was something that was kind of interesting to me. You've got a couple of different dynamics going on here. You got LSU, who's been really good in October, but then you have Arkansas, who under Pittman has been pretty good coming off of a bye. They beat Mississippi State, and some of this has to do too. Let me say this about being a bye week. Some of it, they weren't playing very good teams. Mississippi State in 21, that was an okay team. 22 Auburn, they fired their coach after the game.
Yeah.
23 Florida, they wanted to fire their coach after the game. They just didn't have the $30 million they needed to pay him. So keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those situations where something has to give, because Brian Kelly they're 7-1 in October under him, and the last time that they lost one was his first year. Got beat pretty bad by Tennessee, but since then they've been I guess what I'm trying to say is that they progress well in the middle of their season, which I just feel like that's so important for a team in this league, is that you don't slip up in October. I think that's what's kind of hurt Arkansas the past couple years or so, is just the heart of their schedule in there. LSU's been good there. So that's one aspect I look at, is how good they've been, in October, but also one score games. We've harped and we're not going to beat that dead horse, I don't think, about Arkansas. Their one score games under Pittman, that record, but Brian Kelly under him, they are 7-3 in one score games. So do with that what you will.
Yeah. So I still go back to the fact that one score record, that is what it is. Arkansas has won some close games this year.
Yeah.
That were not one score, more than just the Tennessee game.
Yep. But the fact that the fact that LSU's won 7 of them out of their last 10, that tells me that they do know how to finish games, though. So I think it's one of those things that, we talk about. Arkansas's played some close games that don't fall in that one score category. So, but I do think if you do have that type of record in one-score games, it does still say something that you have a culture that you don't break under pressure. So
I think Kelly had a really good record too in one-score games at Notre Dame. So,
Yeah.
and that's why he has the record that he has. I mean, he's a very, very good head coach, and I've said this a couple of times this week. I think a testament to him and a testament to the LSU program is the fact that they feel like they get better, a lot better, from game 1 to game 12 every year.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk more about Arkansas-LSU on the backside of when we talk about basketball, but first a word from our sponsors.
Want to enjoy your life again? Burning, numbness, and general pain in your feet and legs might be keeping you from your daily activities. Neuropathy treatment can be effective to restoring your life. Come see what we can do at Enhanced Healthcare Wellness Institute in Uptown Rogers. We can treat your neuropathy pain and get you back in the game of life. Enhanced Healthcare Wellness Institute is located at 5102 West Pauline Whitaker Parkway in Uptown Rogers.
At Kindle King, we're proud of over 4 decades of design. We're continuing the legacy of great creative design by combining our brands of Kindle King, Soapbox, and Shopcart. Together, these brands represent a new focus in marketing design, with individual attention to specific areas. Through our design expertise supported by a team of talented professionals, we showcase our best. We are Kindle King, we are Soapbox, we are Shopcart, we are design.
Hey, welcome back. I want to tell you about our friends at Enhanced Healthcare Wellness Institute. They are your source for holistic wellness and your healthy lifestyle changes. Located in Uptown Rogers, the staff at Enhanced Healthcare will target your specific health plan for wellness, from neuropathy treatment, primary care, weight loss, and so much more. You can count on the experts at Enhanced Healthcare Wellness Institute in Rogers. Ethan Westerman sitting over here with me. Looks like he stepped out of an LL Bean catalog this morning. That sheepskin? Is it on the inside of the coat?
I don't know what it is. I actually got it at Bass Pro Shop, so
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what type of material this is, but it's comfy.
Looks like it's warm.
Oh yeah, and I needed it because I left for this safari that we talked about at the top of this basketball trip, and it was 90 degrees outside here. I come back and there's a freeze warning, and I'm like, gosh, I was only gone for 6 days, but it made it feel like I was gone for months.
It goes from 0 to 60 here pretty fast,
Yeah.
weather-wise.
That's an understatement.
There's
I mean,
I feel like there's no middle ground. Last week, we were having historic highs, like 95 degrees in October, and this week we've had a freeze warning for like 3 nights in a row.
Yeah, and see, I'm definitely fine with this colder weather. Just can we ease it up a little bit to where I'm not just 1 minute, in shorts, the next freezing my butt off. So, but yeah, it was interesting because I turned off my AC before on my way out to go on this trip because it was so hot outside. I was like, oh, I got to just save some. But I was worried that when I got back, it'd still be that hot. I came back and the temperature inside my place was like 60 degrees, so I was freezing. But it's just it's the weather here is weird. I'm not a fan of the such quick drastic changes.
Well, at least you have your flannel.
Yeah, at least I have this, and at least football weather should be nice on Saturday, I think.
Well, all the weather talk is to tell you the basketball season is right around the corner. Arkansas and Kansas next Friday night over at Bud Walton Arena in an exhibition game. Kansas ranked number 1 in the AP poll that was released earlier this week. Arkansas ranked number 16. John Calipari was at the Hogs Illustrated Sports Club yesterday. If you missed it or you haven't seen it, go back and listen to our podcast yesterday. You can hear his entire speech. You can hear the entire Q&A that he and I had there. But really, the big takeaway that I had from that, Ethan, was that, and it's not surprising if you listen to his comments over the last week or two, but Arkansas is not going to have a team at full strength for Kansas next week, and I think that's probably going to be disappointing to some people.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be. I mean, I don't want to tell people how to feel, but it's an exhibition. And this is a talented team to where I know I think it might be so trained right now in your mind with kind of under Eric Musselman, how exhibitions were treated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say is the way that they prepared for exhibitions was not the way other teams. I think Purdue was totally taken aback by how Arkansas came out and approached that exhibition game. And it felt like Purdue somewhere, I don't know, in the middle of that game finally figured out hey, they're in this to win it. They got 20,000 people behind them. And we've got to figure out a way to match their intensity level, their focus for this game, how much it means to them. They were able to send it to overtime, but I don't know that Calipari's going to approach exhibition games the way that Musselman did.
Yeah, and I don't think Eric Musselman, had he had some guys that were, banged up, wouldn't have forced anybody to play. But I think if, you got those guys, it seems like Calipari, if they're even like borderline, like it's going to be, hey, rest up. We need you for Lipscomb, the season opener. So, yeah, of course, people's natural response is to be disappointed whenever you want to see, these guys for the first time. That's the exciting part of an exhibition, I think, with this new team is, let's get our eyes on Adu Thera. Let's get our eyes on Jonas Adu, how they play for the Razorbacks. But that's just probably not going to happen across the board. It's probably going to be a bunch of guys that, that they're going to get more minutes in this Kansas exhibition against the number one team than they might get against Lipscomb, in the season opener.
So who do we think it was probably not going to play? Adu?
I would say, Adu didn't go full speed for the Hot Springs practice. He eased in with the Pine Bluff one, so it seems like he's probably pretty fine. John L. Davis didn't dress out or do anything at either. I don't know what's going on there, but that's the thing. None of these seem like there's nothing major apparent. Like nobody's walking around with a boot on their foot. Nobody's got like just a massive cast on their arm or something. Maybe they have some like lighter protection on somewhere. I don't know, but John L. Davis, he wasn't available. Jonas Adu, didn't go full speed. There's some of the other guys.
Thiero?
I mentioned Thiero. Okay. There was Casimir Chavis, who he was the sneaky one in this class as far as like just they added him kind of out of nowhere, went under the radar. He didn't do anything, and neither did one of these guys. It's a Melo Sanchez, one of the walk-on guys. So yeah, those guys are the ones I would probably key in on and say I'm not sure if they'll play. Calipari made it seem like they're prepared to like have a lot of guys out. So I think that they're treating it like if you're even, like I said, borderline, like should you play, they're going to take it super, super conservative, which I think is the smart approach because there's no reason to risk a guy further injuring something and a minor injury becoming major just for an exhibition. I know it's Kansas. I know people will want to see Arkansas give it their best shot to beat them, but shouldn't come at the expense of losing some guys for down the road.
Down at SEC Media Days, this was a quote from Calipari. He said, Bill Self or I, neither of us would push a player because of an exhibition game. If he needs to sit out, he'll sit out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just, it's just kind of the shift. I think it's going to be different is just how, the exhibition was treated last year.
And this was a quote from yesterday. He said, everybody thinks we're winning every game. We may get beat by 30 by Kansas. I'll move on. Next day. It's a process. I understand.
Yep. He said it. And that's the thing. Like, I remember that Arkansas team a couple years ago, they played Texas in an exhibition. And
lost by 30.
They got beat really bad. And they ended up being a fine team. Like, an exhibition is an exhibition. It's a dress rehearsal. I think the biggest advantage of doing an exhibition like Arkansas is doing against Kansas is honestly the biggest advantage is generating some buzz and getting, to play somebody else, even if it's not going to be like your normal game. A lot of teams will go pretty vanilla in these exhibitions too. I know Arkansas, it seems weird, you're playing Kansas, you want to go all out, but because it's Kansas, but you really shouldn't in an exhibition. So I expect them to just kind of keep it probably pretty vanilla, and it's more just about creating that buzz and getting the fan base excited. So I'm talking about getting the fan base excited. If they get beat really bad, hopefully it doesn't make the fan base just freak out. It probably will some, but it's an exhibition.
Well, here's what he said. Another quote. He said, whatever happens in this exhibition game with Kansas, we all just need to keep things in perspective.
Yeah. So, and a lot of times I feel like these coaches, they really don't know. Like, he's just saying, like, we could get beat by 30. He's not. So I don't think he's over here saying, like, oh, yeah, I think we're going to be really bad because we're missing guys. I think a lot of these coaches really do not know exactly what they have. Kansas might have a better idea because they have a lot of, returners. But
we don't know about them is whether or not they've got injuries.
Yeah. So it's just as much as fans go into like these first games, like an exhibition, like curious what their team's going to look like and do. Coaches are even more like that, I think. I think there's always nerves for them the first go around because you can practice and look as good in practice as, ever, but you just don't know till you go against somebody.
Kansas looks really good.
Yeah, I mean,
Dickinson, I think he's a potential player of the year.
I do think it's cool that we've had back-to-back years for an exhibition that
Oh, that's right. Big man.
Edie came in and then Dickinson. I mean, it's just like these big-time college basketball players that are going to be in the running probably for National Player of the Year.
Texas had a player like that a couple of years ago too, didn't they?
I'm blanking, but they probably did.
Well, we'll circle back to that. Women's basketball picked to finish 16th in the SEC. What do you think, as you were talking to Mike Neighbors in Birmingham, what do you think the feeling around the program is this year? Because it certainly feels like it's a make or break season for this coaching staff.
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I asked him it was the first question of the interview while he was on the podium, and I asked him about it, just like being picked 16th. Like, I've asked him what he thinks about preseason polls in the first place, and then just that's their perception right now. And he said that he talked with the team basically, and he was like, "Hey, that's the perception because of how last year ended and who we lost to." And then he also said that, like, I think he said the preseason polls are 0 for 32, picking where his teams are going to end at the end of the year. So he was just saying, like, they're most focused on making sure they don't end up in last place. So, it'll be interesting to see how they are. I mean, talk about a team that I don't know anything about until I watch them play a game. I mean, that team is I know they have a good transfer in Izzy Higginbottom, and Jenna Lawrence is back, who I've seen play, and so is Carly Keats. Those three, I feel like I have a general idea of what they bring to the table. At least everybody else, I have no clue, Matt. I mean, I'm going to get my eyes on them tonight because they have an exhibition game, and I just don't really know what to expect. But it does feel like a very, very important season for them.
So they play Northeastern Oklahoma State from Tahlequah tonight. I mean, they should win this game. It would be very alarming if they do not. But kind of your point, you just don't know what to expect with this team because it's pretty much an entirely new team.
Yeah, there's just not really any continuity there. Aside from the two I mentioned with Jenna Lawrence and Carly Keats. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those deals where it's like this team could be better than I'm giving it credit for, and I just don't know. You have to see them play at some point, especially whenever you got a bunch of international players that are coming on the scene. It's one thing you can evaluate like high school talent and be like, oh, like last year going into the season, I knew Talia Scott, who's now at Auburn, she transferred. I knew she was going to be really good because I'd seen high school film and, seen her practice some, and you just knew she was going to be good. A lot of these international players, like they could be really good, and I just have no clue really because there's not as much out there to watch their game. I've seen a little bit of practice, but like it's just, yeah, somebody could wow me, and I'm just not ready for it.
Didn't Neighbors say something to the extent that this team is going to have to lean on defense?
Yeah,
which is interesting because they have not been great defensively. I mean, they've been known more for their offense during his tenure.
Yeah, and that's one of the top things that stood out to me there is they were talking about how the defense first mentality this year. I think he's got all these new players and stuff, and he knows that their offense is going to take a little bit to come along, but he said that their defense needs to be at mid-season form for non-conference play if they're going to have the chance, especially against Fairfield, who they open with, who has had votes to be ranked. They're like one of the best mid-majors. So, yeah, defense first is what it sounds like they're stressing. I'm just ready to put my eyes on them.
Does it feel like it's going to be interesting for them to have a exhibition this early because we're still a couple of weeks out from their first game?
Yeah, what's really, I mean, like South Carolina's women played an exhibition on
17 days between the exhibition and the season opener.
Yeah, that's a long period. South Carolina's women played an exhibition the day before SEC Media Day. It's just like these teams, it just seems like across the board there's some earlier ones being played. I think that if I was a coach and a player, I would really like playing one a little bit further out from the season opener like they're doing because it gives you more time to really address what went wrong.
Arkansas and Northeastern State women's basketball is at Bud Walton Arena tonight. If you're in town for football, if you're looking for something to do, it's a 5 o'clock tip-off at Bud Walton Arena. Free admission, free parking. Again, 5 o'clock tip-off at Bud Walton Arena. When we come back, we'll talk about this weekend's SEC games, but first, another word from our sponsors.
Want to enjoy your life again? Burning, numbness, and general pain in your feet and legs might be keeping you from your daily activities. Neuropathy treatment can be effective to restoring your life. Come see what we can do at Enhanced Healthcare Wellness Institute in Uptown Rogers. We can treat your neuropathy pain and get you back in the game of life. Enhanced Healthcare Wellness Institute is located at 5102 West Pauline Whitaker Parkway in Uptown Rogers.
At Kindle King, we're proud of over 4 decades of design. We're continuing the legacy of great creative design by combining our brands of Kindle King, Soapbox, and Shopcart. Together, these brands represent a new focus in marketing design with individual attention to specific areas. Through our design expertise supported by a team of talented professionals, we showcase our best. We are Kindle King, we are Soapbox, we are Shopcart, we are design.
Hey, welcome back. I want to tell you about our friends at Bentonville Glass. They are committed, professional, and versatile, and they've been serving their community since 1971. If you're looking for a quality leader in Northwest Arkansas or looking for skilled craftsmanship, choose Bentonville Glass for all your glass market needs with the highest quality products. Come by and see them right now at 507 South Main in Bentonville or online at bentonvilleglass.com. There's a couple of Razorback teams that are in Austin, Texas today. The soccer team will play at UT tonight, and the volleyball team will play at UT tonight. Of course, Texas volleyball is what would you like? I mean, what would we compare them to? Georgia football, maybe? I mean, they've won back-to-back national championships.
Yeah, they're
Oklahoma softball.
somewhere in between. I feel like maybe even a step down. I don't know, because I feel like volleyball. There's been a little bit more parity in recent years. But they have been very, very good the past couple. I'd say that maybe my comparison, since it's on my mind, Kansas basketball, but just historically. I'm talking historic, not recent.
Okay.
That's going to be my comparison.
This is a great opportunity for Arkansas's volleyball team. I mean, they're kind of flying under the radar right now. They're 14-2. They're undefeated in conference play. They just beat Alabama last week. That game with Texas tonight at 8 o'clock on SEC Network Plus, if you want to watch that, Razorback volleyball against the Longhorns, or you can maybe make it a daily double. You could also watch on SEC Network Plus the 5th-ranked Arkansas soccer team against number 24 Texas Soccer. It's going to be a 6 o'clock start in Austin.
Just watch them back to back.
SEC Network Plus as well.
Yeah, just watch them back to back.
We should have sent somebody down there to I don't know, how fast could you get from their soccer field to their volleyball arena?
No clue. I know nothing about their campus.
I just know that it's hard to drive in Austin, Texas.
Hey, if you want to send somebody down, let's find me a flight to Austin.
I think we're too late. You've got NEO basketball tonight.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So that's what's going on this weekend. A lot of pretty much every sport that's in season right now has got something going on this week. Of course, the Razorback football game against LSU. What do you think that this game, like if you just boil it down to a simple nugget, what do you think that is for this game?
Turnovers. I think that's been, until Arkansas has proven that, games can be determined really by anything else. I mean, they're undefeated when they've been equal or had more takeaways than the other team. So I think that's going to once again be really important. Which team doesn't make the mistake, or which team, if it's not making mistakes, which team finds a way to get a turnover, strips the ball. So we'll see. I think that's what it boils down to, though, in my mind, is possessions. Because possessions, I just think are so precious right now in college football. With I feel like each of these games I've been watching, just like by drives and stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm crazy, but it feels like there's less possessions per team than I'm used to in the past.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And part of it is the new clock rules.
Mm-hmm.
Gino Toretto was talking about this earlier this week. He said teams have gone from taking close to 100 snaps, and he may have been embellishing this a little bit, but basically the number of snaps that teams are getting is down this year because of the way they've changed the clock rules.
Yeah, and so I think that's why turnovers are so crucial, because it's like just creating more opportunities. I mean, they've always been important, but I just feel like now you're seeing maybe more of a result of when you turn the ball over of how much it hurts you. So
that's why I'm such a big believer in these efficiency ratings, because that's essentially what they're doing. They're tracking points and possessions. That's it. They don't care about yards. They don't care about who's got the home field. They don't care about injuries, anything like that. It's just What does your offense do? What does your defense do based on the number of opportunities that it has?
Yeah, and I think that Saturday it's got to be Arkansas's defense maybe creating some extra opportunities for the offense, and the offense can't be doing what it did against A&M and fumbling within your own 10-yard line and giving LSU a short field. That LSU offense is too good to be giving them that type of yardage.
This is one of those games where you have one team's strength going against the other team's. I don't know how I'm trying to say this, but basically one team is stronger on one side than the other, and then vice versa. So what I mean by that, LSU offensively, they rank 5th in the SEC in efficiency. They're scoring about 38% of all of their points possible. Arkansas ranks 12th in the SEC in efficiency, about 26.5%. Not a great number for Arkansas. That number really needs to come up because what it's doing is it's putting a lot of stress on the defense to be really good. And there are going to be weeks where the defense is not going to be good. It may be this week. They haven't been challenged by a team, I think, that's going to, in passing, the way that LSU is going to do. LSU, they're going to take a bunch of vertical shots, and you don't have to hit all of them. You just hit 3 or 4 of those, and it can be backbreakers and game changers. But Arkansas defensively right now, they're 5th in the SEC in defensive efficiency. LSU 10th in defensive efficiency. So, like, whose good group shows up? I think that's going to be a key to this game.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think that, like you mentioned, with the deep shots that LSU takes, and this tying back into what I said about the turnovers, like if you can maybe get a little bit, I know they've been really good protecting Nussmeier, and he just gets rid of it quick. But if you get a little bit of pressure on him and maybe get an interception on a deep shot and take away, I think it makes teams a little, a little more hesitant to keep on taking as many deep shots. LSU is going to get theirs in, but if you can create some turnovers, on those situations and your offense going cash in from it, though, that's what changes a game, in my opinion. It so many times boils down to what team makes the mistake and what team capitalizes on it.
You ready for predictions?
Sure.
Let's do it. A couple of interesting top 25 games tonight. We're not going to pick them, but you got Oregon and Purdue tonight on Fox. That's a 7 o'clock kickoff. And then if you're a real sicko and want to be up late on a Friday night on ESPN, a 9:15 kickoff between Oklahoma State and BYU. The Cowboys are 0-3 in the Big 12, and they're so mad about it in Stillwater that Mike Gundy's cattle are headbutting him. Have you heard about this? He didn't do he did not do his in-person media availability this week. He did it over Zoom, and I think he did it with the video off because over the weekend last week, one of his cows headbutted him and left him with a black eye.
Oh my gosh!
So
that's the most Stillwater, Oklahoma.
It is.
Goodness.
It is. You know that every Oklahoma State fan's like, that lucky cow.
Yeah, honestly.
They would love to do that. Oklahoma State, obviously, they're not living up to expectations. They started out 3-0, had that win over Arkansas, beat TU the next week, and they haven't been terrible games every week, but boy, they've been on a little bit of a downward spiral. We'll focus mostly on SEC games, but a couple of other games outside of the conference that are kind of interesting to us. One of which, Ethan, is Michigan, number 24, going to Brett Bielema, and Illinois, number 22. Illinois, they're going to wear throwback uniforms. I think you saw this. Red Grange-inspired uniforms. 100 years ago, he scored 6 touchdowns against Michigan. So they're going to wear these 1920s era uniforms. What I want to know is Brett Bielema going to dress like a 1920s era coach?
I'd love to see it.
Like a suit with a fedora.
I'd love to see it. It's hard to not like. I feel the success that Brett Bielema is having at Illinois. It's kind of nice to see, in my opinion. It just goes
to show that in that conference he is a very good coach.
Exactly, and just the way that his time at Arkansas ended. It just seems like he's had some time to get things back to the winning football that he got hired at Arkansas for in the first place. But, I mean, they're not at the level that, Wisconsin was when he was there. But he's got that program trending in the right direction. Are we picking this game?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to
Michigan's a 3.5-point favorite.
I'm going to pick Luke Altmaier, the Illinois quarterback, 1,426 passing yards. But this 14 touchdowns to 1 interception, that stands out to me. I think at home, I just like Illinois at home against Michigan. Michigan hasn't impressed me very much this year at all. And so, yeah, I'll pick the Illini.
That's the 2:30 game, by the way, with Brad and Gary. They're going to be playing your CBS theme.
Won't be watching. I will not.
I'm going to go with Michigan. I think Michigan's they're hard to get a feel for right now, but I'm going to go with Michigan. I think they win that game over Illinois. We'll move on to one other game. We're not going to pick this, but just a game that I think is very interesting this week is you've got Miami going to Louisville. Cam Ward obviously is a Heisman contender right now with the way that he's playing for Miami. Going back to Louisville where he played previously, just be a really interesting game to watch Saturday morning. That's going to be an 11 a.m. kickoff on ABC Central Time. All right, SEC games, we'll kind of go from lowest to highest interest. It's a weird week in the SEC because it feels like it's just flip a coin. Flip a coin. Who wins these games? Because if you trust the ratings, which, I think they typically give us an idea of if it's going to be a close game or not, all of these games are just toss-up games. And one of the ones that I think I was a little bit surprised by to see that it felt like it was going to be such a toss-up is Auburn going to Missouri. It's an ESPN game, 11 a.m. kickoff. Missouri just a 4-point favorite at home.
Doesn't surprise me because Missouri, it's a fluke record. Their 5-1 record is very fluky. I think Auburn's been tested more. I'm going to pick Auburn. I think that they have a defense that can slow down Missouri. I'm still not, sold on the Auburn offense, but I just think that they've been tested more. I at this point in the season, I love to see which teams have been tested and which teams haven't, because I think that a lot of times teams that have been tested at this point, they've learned a lot of lessons along the way, and they kind of got that. Missouri sitting at 5-1. I know that the college football playoff was kind of like the expectation for them this year with the schedule that they had, and still at 5-1. I think they might be too comfortable with that record that they have, and it's a team like Auburn that I think could bring them really down to earth. If Texas A&M didn't bring them down to earth enough.
I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Missouri to win it. I just think they're the safe pick at home. Auburn, I haven't seen anything from their quarterback that makes me trust them yet, but I wouldn't be surprised by an upset if Auburn beat Tennessee or if they beat Missouri tomorrow. So I'm going to go with Missouri, but again, would not be surprised at all if Auburn went up there and won. And you know what? Even if they don't win, Hugh Freeze is going to think they will win the next time around.
Yep.
11:45 a.m. kickoff. South Carolina goes to Oklahoma, another game that I feel like is kind of interesting, hard to pick. South Carolina, they're only about 6 or 7 points away from having a 3-1 conference record this year. They lost late to LSU, didn't get it done against Alabama when they had the chance last week. Oklahoma, Texas, they magnified their offensive issues last week.
Yep. I'm going to pick Oklahoma still, though. I still like their defense enough against South Carolina's offense that, I feel like it's been very hit or miss this year, South Carolina's offense. I don't think that Oklahoma going into that environment and that defense is the type of game that I see. I don't see Lenore Sellers having a great game.
You got 2 freshman quarterbacks, Lenore Sellers and Michael Washington in that game. For OU, they're a 1-point favorite. They are at home. I think South Carolina wins this game. I think South Carolina, last week in Tuscaloosa, I was impressed with how they bounced back from the week before, how they played against Ole Miss. I know they're playing back-to-back road games, and that can always be kind of tricky. It seems like when you're playing that second road game, maybe it doesn't go quite as well. But I think South Carolina figures out a way to go in there. And they don't have to score very many points to beat Oklahoma. I think that much is clear.
Yep. I'd agree. I mean, it's just for me the fact that they're just so inconsistent. South Carolina, I have a hard time picking them against them. Like they scored 3 points against Ole Miss, which Ole Miss has a good defense. Don't get me wrong. Scored 33 points against LSU. Scored 31 points against Kentucky. It's just like which South Carolina offense are you going to get?
So who had this at the midway point? SEC leader Texas A&M going to Mississippi State. A&M an 18-point favorite on the road. They've got a 3-0 record in conference, and I mean, I don't see it ending. The undefeated record ending this week.
No, I don't either. They're going to win big, in my opinion. That offensive line from Mississippi State, not great.
Nor is the defense.
The
defense is just it's borderline historically bad defense what they're doing right now. I mean, teams are scoring at almost will against Mississippi State.
Exactly, and I just think that Texas A&M, like if you don't have a decent offensive line, you don't have much of a chance against Texas A&M. They're going to make life miserable for the quarterback on Saturday. I think it's going to be ugly.
It'll be a game that we're all going to be watching. Obviously, Arkansas goes to Starkville next week. I'm taking Texas A&M too. I think Texas A&M. I don't know if they cover 18, but I think they win that game over Mississippi State rather easily. Saturday night game, Kentucky goes to Florida. Both teams 3-3 overall, but they've got losing records in conference. It's a 6:35 kickoff on SEC Network. Graham Mertz for Florida out for the season, and I think that has a big impact in my mind on this game.
Yeah, I'm picking Florida though.
Really?
I just think that they've taken a lot of steps forward on the defensive side of the ball in recent weeks. I just think, Kentucky. This is gonna be a low scoring game. I think.
Oh, I think it could be like 10-7.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be pretty low scoring, and I just trust. I know he's a freshman, but Lagway, I just trust them at home to get. It's in Florida,
Yeah,
right?
it's in the swamp.
It's in the swamp. I just trust usually in those low scoring games the home team to figure a way out. I probably didn't need that logic last year for Arkansas and Mississippi State though, because Arkansas was. Home field advantage did nothing for the Razorbacks that day.
Is this the first time I picked against Florida this year?
I think so.
I think it might be.
I've started recently picking.
We've swapped.
You've been a hater, or I've been a hater for most
A
of
Gator
the year.
hater.
And then I grew a heart and started picking them.
Kentucky's a 1.5 point favorite. They're just not going to need a whole lot of points, I think. Kentucky's really good defensively.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to need a whole lot of points to win this game. I think that they, again, flip a coin. I don't know who it is that wins, but I'm going to go with Kentucky because of Graham Mertz being out. He's the one who got them the 10-0 lead at Tennessee. Lagway, to his credit, took them down the field, got that game to overtime. But that game really turned when Mertz went out with the injury. So I'm going to take Kentucky on the road. Kentucky's been close. They've been close against some good teams this year. Obviously, they beat Ole Miss, close against Georgia. I think they could go there and win that game. I like Mark Stoops. I think he's a really good head coach. 2:30 kickoff, Alabama at Tennessee. They're both 5-1, 2-1, and the loser probably doesn't feel too good about its playoff chances.
Give me Tennessee. Alabama, just the past couple weeks, has told me what I need to know about them, I think, as far as just they're not the normal Alabama that we're used to. I don't think Tennessee, you could say the same thing. What have we learned about them?
Yeah, I feel like Arkansas and Florida, they pulled the curtain back on Tennessee.
Yeah, but I think I just think these are two teams that I'm not sold on yet. And I think they're actually in very, very similar spots, just as far as like how their fan base feels at the moment. I always come back to, I just think playing in Neyland Stadium in a big time environment, I'm going to go with Tennessee.
I think I called Michael Hawkins Michael Washington earlier. Sorry for that. The OU quarterback, though, Michael Hawkins, Talon Green, they both showed what mobile quarterbacks can do against Tennessee. And that's something that as Tennessee was steamrolling through the first month of the season, we didn't see them face that. It's almost like Oklahoma making that quarterback change at the end of the game back in September. It opened some defensive coordinators' eyes as to or some offensive coordinators' eyes, as to what you could potentially do to attack Tennessee defensively. We saw Green have some success against them in the game a couple of weeks ago. Milroe, I think he's the X factor in this game. I think that Alabama goes in there, and I think they win the game. Tennessee's offense, I know they're going to be playing an Alabama defense that hasn't been that good the last few weeks, but Alabama's offense has been so good. They're the top offense efficiency in the SEC. I think Alabama has a good chance to go in there and win that game. So I'm going to pick them, and I think Milroe's the X factor. The Tide goes as Milroe goes.
Yeah, I do think that this is a game that Nico, I'm not going to pronounce his last name.
Iamaleava.
There you go. Could get back on track with just like the Alabama secondary, big play susceptible. I could see him getting back on track this week.
Georgia goes to Texas, number 5 versus number 1. It's the game of the week. ABC 6:30 kickoff. Texas is a 4.5-point favorite at home. This is a fantastic quarterback matchup between Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers.
Yep, and I'm gonna pick Texas. They just have less holes, in my opinion, right now. I mean, Georgia, the game against Alabama, really, I think, exposed them a little bit that they're not as. I mean, their defense just isn't what we're so used to. And the Mississippi State even made it a close game. I just think Texas right now, it's hard to pick against them.
I almost thought about calling Georgia the Silver Britches, but I didn't know if anybody would understand the term. That's what Larry Munson always called Georgia when he was their play-by-play guy. But they don't look like the same Georgia team that we're used to seeing under Kirby Smart. They're good. There's no doubt they're a good football team. I think offensively they're very, very good. Their defense doesn't look like what we're used to seeing from Georgia. And say what you want about Texas and the schedule they played. They've been dominant in those games. They dominated Michigan at Michigan. They dominated OU in the Cotton Bowl, where games typically aren't real one-sided. They beat Mississippi State the way that they should beat Mississippi State. I think Texas, again, I'm not going to be shocked at all if Georgia wins it. And the general rule of thumb for me over the years has been don't pick against Alabama, don't pick against Georgia. But this just doesn't look like the same Georgia team. I think Texas is a really good team this year. They look for real to me.
I think so, too. And I thought it before the season, just looking at their roster and who they got in from the portal. I was just like, this team, it's hard to find an area that you really don't feel good about.
They're one of, and again, the schedule may play into this some. They're one of the few teams I feel like in the SEC right now that looks really good on both sides of the ball. Like we talked about Tennessee, they're very good defensively, offensively, a lot to be desired. Alabama, really good offensively, not good on defense. Texas, they look good on both sides.
Exactly, and they're the team right now that I can't pick against. I just can't right now. There's no there's no team right now that's impressed me like them.
Arkansas-LSU, the second biggest game in Northwest Arkansas today. Who you got? Fayetteville or Bentonville, Ethan?
I'm going to pick the Purple Dogs. That's all I got for you, though. I don't really know why. I'm just picking them.
A couple of teams that are the high school up here has gotten kind of fun. You know, a lot of years where Bentonville and Fayetteville, that was the conference championship. You've also got Rogers and Springdale who are both playing really well this year. And so it's changed the conference dynamic. A lot of times you would think the winner of this game between Fayetteville and Bentonville would be the conference champion, and they may very well be. But you got a couple of other teams that you got to deal with this year. Fayetteville-Bentonville, one of the really, really fun games in high school football, a rematch of last year's 7A state championship. We'll leave the Purple Dog right here while we finish.
I do have the Mounties tonight.
Over Springdale.
Yeah, I guess. I didn't know.
Well, I just that's the other. I mean, it's the other. These two games here tonight, those are going to be games that go a long way toward determining the conference champion.
I pick the Mounties no matter who they're playing. So
they got a good-looking team.
If the Mounties were playing Texas, I would pick the Mounties.
I would hope you'd pick Texas. Jeff Regan, Rogers quarterback, was at our luncheon yesterday with John Calipari, recognized as the player of the week. All right, Arkansas-LSU, what do you got?
This, I mean, you said it. This is a coin flip. I mean, you can make a case either way. I think Arkansas, it sets up so well for them with how rested they should be, getting some guys back, playing at home. You got momentum. You beat Tennessee. But there's LSU, who also has momentum. They just played Ole Miss, won a thriller, have the best passing attack Arkansas's faced yet. It's just a coin flip. And call me a hater. It's just hard to pick Arkansas when you feel like there's a chance they could win. I don't know. I go based off the vibe factor, but I just feel like the past few years, anytime it makes total sense for Arkansas to maybe win, it doesn't happen. And I just think LSU, the record under Brian Kelly in those close games, and then Arkansas's record under Pittman in close games, it leaves me to think that LSU is better equipped to figure it out Saturday night. I do think it's going to be close. I think Arkansas could and maybe, I don't know, I'm not going to say should win, but they have everything going for them going into this game that you could have hoped for before the year, in my opinion.
LSU is a favorite. They're a 2.5-point favorite on the road over Arkansas. To me, it boils down to this. What kind of Taylon Green are you going to get? Because LSU, they're going to figure out a way to score. I feel like they're going to score points against Arkansas, probably. Now, turnovers, that can change things, but I feel like you need Green to be at his best or near his best to probably, be able to score with LSU. And so I'm going with LSU because I just don't know what we expect from Taylon Green. If you have 100% Taylon Green, he doesn't take that dirty hit from the Tennessee lineman a couple of weeks ago. Maybe I think totally different about this. The thing I'm interested in seeing is which team, like how do these two teams start? Because you got LSU coming off that emotional victory last week against Ole Miss, where they could very easily come out flat, or maybe they come out guns a-blazing. Arkansas, a different deal. Bye week last week. Two different ways to think about bye weeks. You can either come out really flat, you can come out really fresh with a good approach. Tennessee, they were coming off a bye week here 2 weeks ago, and they were flat when they came out against Arkansas. So who comes out, who starts fast. I think it could be a very good game. I think it probably will be a good game. Every time that Arkansas and LSU get together, it seems like it's a really close game. We mentioned it this week. Last 4 games have come down to a field goal. If it comes down to a field goal this week, Arkansas's got their backup kicker, Matt Shipley. Diego Ramos, I think, may be a little bit more reliable for LSU. That's something, obviously, to watch. So I'm picking LSU. I'm picking them in large part because I think Nussmeier, who looks like he's fully healthy right now, it seems like there's an advantage there over Taylor Green. But wouldn't be surprised if Arkansas wins. Ought to be a great atmosphere over there tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think so. It is one of those deals. If Arkansas can find a way to win this game, that's huge for the program, and you're probably ranked come Sunday.
You mentioned the historical aspect,
Yeah.
and it's one thing I mentioned earlier this week. It's hard to separate history from the current because it's like, okay, we've seen Arkansas do this so many times, so we expect Arkansas to do it again. They've never beaten back-to-back top 10 teams.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a time in Arkansas's history probably where they do it. No time like the present to do it. Can they do it? We'll see. I also wonder, you think they've been maybe like overselling what happened to Taylor Green a little bit? The fact that he's not even on the availability report?
I've thought that some. I mean, you think about it. It used
It's
to
like
be,
you come out and you think, okay, maybe he's at 80%. And
Why-
there he goes for 60 on the first play.
if you're Arkansas coaches, why would you act like, oh, he's totally fine whenever you could make the other team have to, at least for part of the week before you have the availability report, really prepare for maybe Malachi Singleton? I mean, it just doesn't benefit you to not do that. I think that what speaks volumes to me is I know he ended up having to leave the game against Tennessee, but he tried to go back out there. If you're hurt that bad, I don't think that happens. And also, I
No.
mean, he was back on the sideline for the end of the game, right? It's just, it wasn't your typical injury that I didn't leave the stadium that night. Oh, I bet Taylor Green's out for a while. It just didn't give that feeling. Normally, those type of bigger injuries are treated much differently. So.
Arkansas LSU this weekend, Saturday night, 6 o'clock. Hope you'll come to our website, wholehogsports.com. Before, during, and after the game, we'll have plenty of coverage from that game. We'll be back with another podcast Monday to recap the game. Maybe we'll even talk a little bit about Fayetteville, Bentonville, too. Hope we'll see you at our website. Hope we'll see you next Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone.